Right, YouTube, we're back. I've had a couple of weeks off not making a video. I think the last video we did for me was some things I was changing in training. And we did put out a video of Amy's fantastic 10K. But since then, we've had a bit of a hiatus, unplanned. One of those where you start making a video and you think, this is boring or what have you. Some of that's true. Some of that is, then I have to remind myself, this channel is not about perfection and high quality filmed, top-notch content sometimes. And I look at some of the stuff on YouTube and think, what's the point in me documenting or recording what I'm doing when there's much better people? But yeah, let's get back to it. So what's happened? So the last couple of weeks, as many of you will know, I've finished my 6-month sabbatical career break stint as a professional age grouper, whatever you want to call it. And today is the 6th of August, Tuesday, and I went back to the 9 to 5 world last week. So week 1 was a bit of an adjustment in terms of a slightly lesser training volume, although I actually managed a really good week overall. And yeah, a couple of commutes in and out of London, having to sort of train in locations that, you know, I've trained in before, but sort of getting back into that routine, which train to catch and all that sort of good stuff. But yeah, overall a pretty ease into work week, if you like. Not too much was expected of me. In some ways, not enough was expected of me, and I was found myself twiddling my thumbs a bit for the first 4 days. But yeah, week 2 now, and feel very much back on track in terms of yeah, returning to my old job and what have you. Training is, as I say, slightly lesser in volume. There's no like massive midweek rides and stuff anymore, but back to that sort of consistent twice a day, before and after work, as many of us do that do the 15 plus 20 hours a week, and yeah, squeezing in as and where possible. Managed to keep up my running volume. I've been running really well, particularly last week, 60 plus K again for the week. Building up to, I think this month, August is going to be my biggest run month ever. And particularly by the back end of it, expect to be running sort of 7 hours a week, which will be really good and a really good test of the body. So far, so good. Touch wood, everything's great. And I feel strong. And even the long runs I've been doing on a Sunday, getting to the end of them feeling like I could do more, which is a good place to be, particularly as you're sort of adapting and amending things. Swim-wise, a pretty standard week. 4 swims, 1 open water, 3 pool swims. Back in the King's Cross pool some of the days I go into the office, which I love the pool, but it is a very narrow 25-metre lane. And yeah, sharing it can be problematic at times. And riding-wise, had a pretty standard week. Did a double bike day on Wednesday. And the key session of the week, which I actually travelled all the way down to Richmond Park on Saturday to do laps of Richmond Park with Dr. Dave Mantle, and a few of my athletes were also doing their sessions and caught up for coffees and brick runs and stuff. But yeah, had a really good 4-hour ride where I basically did 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 60 minutes, 40 minutes, 20 minutes at IRONMAN sort of power, if you like, laps of the park. It basically worked out as 1 lap, 2 lap, 3 laps, 2 laps, 1 lap, 130 odd K, around a 10K loop. But yeah, loved it. Haven't ridden around that park for ages, and having some company as well really spurred us both on, and sort of, you know, got a good session out of it. What else have I been up to? Well, the big news, and this week signalled 12 weeks to Kona, which has been the big goal now since, in theory, qualifying back in the end of 2022 at Ironman Wales, and then the whole deferral, etc. So the whole career break has been focused on this. Obviously, I've well documented that I wanted to get fitter, but arguably this is the period of time I wanted to then be able to put that fitness to test and get used to the conditions that we can expect. I did race back there in 2019 and have some experience of it, and did do some heat chamber stuff prior to that, but certainly want to take it up a level. So taking it up a level we have. We haven't ruled out doing some official lab testing and heat sessions, etc. I might have the opportunity to do that with Precision Fuel and Hydration, or even the local university here in Hertfordshire. But until then, we have recreated an indoor greenhouse, particularly for the bike. So I'll show you around. Excuse some of the mess, but effectively I've got this kind of half moon shape greenhouse. It's obviously meant for the outdoors to grow your strawberries in or what have you. Got it from Argos, 65 quid. It opens up both ends, which is great. So wherever you might put it, you can get in and out. And as you can see, I've got my usual bike set up here. I don't know how hot I'm going to be able to get it and whether or not I actually need to seal both sides of it. But I'm hoping I can keep this side open and have the fan and Zwift and laptop and be able to seal that while riding. And obviously with the shed door shut, it already gets pretty hot in here. I've got a little Govee wireless thermometer thing up here, which it's been in the shed for a couple of years, just to monitor the temperature and humidity in here. And for example, last week when we had a bit of a heat spell, it got up to 39 point something in here, temperature wise, and like 60% humidity. And that was without the greenhouse. So depending on the conditions outside, will depend how much I have to heat up and add humidity. In terms of adding heat and humidity, I've got the usual electric heater here, which most households have at their disposal ready for the winter. And then we've bought this Levolt humidifier. They're mainly advertised to help babies go to sleep or something along those lines, but it's effectively got some settings on it and I can control it from my phone. So it was a little more pricey than some of the others. It was 70 or 80 quid, but effectively I can have it down here, have an app on my phone, and I can monitor the humidity. It has an auto setting, which I believe keeps whatever space it's in at 50%. And then it has 3 settings above that, which you can get it to like 60, 70, 80, I presume. And we're going to play with that as and when. Another part of the heats, I've got my Garmin scales down here. I mean, we bought these a while ago and we don't use them too often. I find they overread slightly. When I put a 10 kilo dumbbell on it, they measure about 12 kilos. So I always measure a bit heavy on them. But effectively, I can measure my body weight before and after sessions and look at my sweat rate, which is something we want to capture. So I'll use those here because, again, just standing on it, it uploads all the data to Training Peaks for me. So both coach and I can see it all. And yeah, that's the heat session. We're going to do a heat session tomorrow, Wednesday. So 1 hour on the bike, basically just get my core temperature up and make sure all the equipment works so I can get hot enough and all that sort of stuff. And then this weekend, we're going to start with a 10-day heat block. So almost once a day after sessions or during the sessions, we're going to get myself nice and hot. We're going to either do hot baths afterwards. We're going to do like long rides, come here and do the last hour in the tent. And we're going to monitor, see how it works, see how the adaptation goes, how much it impacts training, how much it impacts recovery, how much it impacts fatigue, etc. All ahead of doing the more serious or slightly longer version of it at the end of September, start of October, before we go out to Hawaii. So yeah, quite exciting. I have my treadmill in the garage, which we will run on during the week as well. I don't have a tent around that treadmill as well, but the garage does get pretty hot, and I can obviously take the humidifier and heater in there, and I'm sure I can get that place a bit hotter if I wanted to do some heat stuff on the bike and run. And the pool I'm using when I travel into work has a sauna, so there is also an opportunity to potentially do some hard swims and then go sit in the sauna straight away 10-15 minutes after as well, and sort of add it on, if that makes sense. So what I learned when I last did this was I don't want to lose the quality of my training, so I want to be doing the sessions that are key, that build the fitness, build the confidence, and then they normally get you to the point where you're hot enough. I've seen, since using that core sensor now for the last month, that when I am doing my hard sessions, my core temperature is pretty good and pretty stable, and there is some adaptation there. And all I want to do is at the end of the session, I want to then introduce either sitting in the hot tent, sitting in a hot bath, or using saunas, etc., to just add that extra hour of low intensity. Even if my core temperature's above 39.5, I won't even be pedaling in there. I'll just stay in the chamber, if you like, or the tent, and just have that 40 to 60 minutes of extra adaptation work, if that makes sense. So trying to not combine the quality and the heat, because you'll very quickly not be able to maintain that quality when you are really hot, until of course you are pretty well adapted, if that makes sense. So we should see by the end of each block of heat work, I'm better at doing slightly harder stuff at heat, if that makes sense. So that's the plan. That's what we've been up to, or I've been up to. Amy's on board with it. We've got a whiteboard up in the garage now that captures when I need her help with some of these sessions. So if I'm out running and I want to come home and get into a hot bath, she knows what days, and I obviously can tell her, like, I'm 30 minutes from home, can you start running the bath? So it is a bit of a team effort, and fully appreciate her support and help with this. And yeah, hopefully we'll document some of it. I think some people will find it quite interesting. There's obviously going to be probably lots of footage of me suffering and very red and looking like a beetroot for a lot of it. So stay tuned for that, and catch you all soon. Cheers.